Hello, Broncos. My name is Leslie, and I am delighted to be your host and moderator for tonight's town hall. Let's get started. Before we get started, though, I want to give you just a couple of housekeeping items. To activate closed captioning for this evening's program, please select the CC button on the bottom of your screen and select Show Subtitles. For your preferred language, please click the globe at the bottom of the screen and select Spanish or English. Throughout the program, you will have opportunities to ask questions of our panelists. In fact, I see some of you already taking advantage of that option right now as I speak. Please submit your questions using that Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. So tonight's aim, we're so happy that you're joining us, and I see that you continue to come in to the Zoom. What we're interested in doing tonight is sharing updated information and then entertaining your questions about the coming weeks and the entire fall semester. First, I'd like to invite our president to share some opening remarks. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Marlene Tromp.
Good evening, Broncos. This is my only meeting today that had a soundtrack. I'm really excited to be here tonight. This is one of my favorite kinds of events because our students is where my heart is. I am so excited for you. You are about to change your life. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. We are so excited to welcome our new students to campus. Boise State is such a special place. I came here from California about a year ago from the UC system, UC Santa Cruz, and I chose Boise State because it was such an incredible place, incredible faculty, staff, students, people doing really innovative things, and we have had an exceptional year in spite of the challenges we have faced. We've received national recognition out of thousands of institutions across the country and hundreds of institutions that are identified as national universities. Boise State has ranked for multiple years in a row as one of the top 50 most innovative universities in the country, ahead of the University of Washington, Northwestern University, and Texas A&M. We were identified as the #4 public university on the rise in the entire nation. We are deeply committed to our mission of teaching, research, and service, and you are going to have the opportunity to earn a degree that will really make an impact on your life. The panelists you have before you today are some of the most incredible people on our team. We have folks who are leading the way in reintegration efforts for universities to have their students actually present on campus. We've received national recognition for our efforts. We care so very deeply about our community, and we care about you and getting your questions answered this evening. We all want to stay on campus and stay healthy, and it's going to take all of us to do that. And we're committed to doing all we can as a university to minimize the spread of the virus. So we're going to have some codes of conduct and some behavioral expectations for folks, but it's still going to be an amazing Bronco experience for everyone all year. Thank you for joining us, and I'm going to hand it back to Dr. Webb.
Thank you so much, Dr. Tromp. We're just glad you're here with us tonight. Thank you so much for joining. Well, let's begin. Tonight, we have 5 panelists who will address various areas of the university: academics, student and campus life, our public health and safety strategies, housing and residence life, and then, of course, we'll entertain the additional questions that you submit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask our panelists to introduce themselves, share a brief overview about their world, and address some of the questions that you already submitted. First up, please welcome Tony Rourke, our interim provost and vice president for academic affairs, who's going to talk about the academic experience.
Thank you so much, Leslie. It's wonderful to see you all virtually this evening in this town hall. Very excited to be here, and I'm really proud to share how we've prepared and to share our plan with you and to answer some of your questions. I'd like to begin by reemphasizing the point that Dr. Tromp made, which is that our first priority is health and safety of our students, of our employees, our faculty and staff, and also of community members. Everyone in Boise and the Treasure Valley is counting on Boise State to really do this well, and we're prepared to do it well. A little bit of background for you. Prior to the pandemic, about 3/4 of the classes that we offered were based on face-to-face instruction in the classroom, and the other quarter was based in online instruction. And in order to facilitate social distancing, we've had to change that to about 50-50. And we are taking the social distancing incredibly seriously, including wearing of masks at all time indoors. And we're making use of unique learning spaces on campus. It isn't just the traditional classroom, but also larger auditoriums, ballrooms in our student union building, and even the Extra Mile Arena. I can't wait to see how that comes off and what the students think of that. Our faculty are really excited to teach in that large venue with new technology. We didn't just look at floor plans in figuring out what our COVID seating capacity would be in these classrooms. We actually sent teams out to each and every classroom with 6-foot ropes to take an actual accurate measure of how many students we could safely accommodate in each of these classrooms, while providing an additional 10 feet of separation between the instructor and the students, since the instructors are often quite loud, right? They're wearing a mask with amplification, a face shield probably as well to be safe. And we're really delighted that we're able to make that kind of accommodation. Now, with about half of our classes based in an online format, you might have some questions about how we do that and what that's like for students. And I should let you know that Boise State is a top 10 university in the Western US for online education. We know what we're doing. We've been doing this for a long time. Those classes and programs are subject to the same accreditation standards as all of our other classes. There is no distinction between those. And so we have quality matters insurance in place there. We have peer review of our online classes, and we have significant infrastructure. I've been at Boise State for 20 years, and we've been in this line for a long time, and we do it quite well. Nonetheless, we have made significant investments of our human capital and also financial investments in enhancing our abilities in online education, investing over $2 million in infrastructure and professional development. We're upgrading the technology in many of our classrooms, adding technology elsewhere for video and audio. And what I'm really excited about is the way that our faculty have stepped up to prepare for this fall. We have over 750 faculty members engaged in professional development this summer. And those 750 faculty members are investing over 16,000 hours, that's 16,000 person hours, in workshops, in classes, producing deliverables that are required of them as they're working through these institutes and these workshops. So I'm incredibly proud of the way in which my colleagues have stepped forward to serve our students especially well this fall. So we're very confident in our plan. The quality of the plan is good. We're confident in our ability to execute the plan. And should the need arise, as it did this spring, for us to pivot to remote instruction only, we can do that. We can do that overnight, and that will not be disruptive in the learning experience for our students. Of course, we hope that is not going to happen. Everyone hopes that, of course, but we're prepared to do that if we need to. We have active learning strategies in place in our online classes as well. So if you're concerned about being engaged in an online class and being able to interact with your peers, with students, and to work with them, that's baked in. And so there are differences, of course, in face-to-face and learning online, but in many cases, learning online has enhancements and creates opportunities for students to participate that are more difficult to achieve in a face-to-face environment. So we're really pleased about that. In the event that a student falls ill or that a faculty member falls ill, we're prepared for that as well. It's bound to happen, even if it's not COVID, seasonal flu, colds, stomach flu, all of those things. And so if an instructor falls ill, the department will back up that instructor. This is just standard operating procedure in our academic departments, that when an instructor is unable to hold a class due to illness, then we will back them up. If a student falls ill, then of course we will accommodate that student to the very best of our ability. And the fact that we're prepared to deliver all of our classes this fall in an online or remote format, we will be able to put those measures in place. And if a student is so ill that they're unable to complete their class, we have the ability to assign a grade of I for incomplete. And that holds a place in their transcript, and the student will have a full year to discharge that incomplete with the assistance of the faculty member. There's no additional charge for that. It's not like it's a separate class. It's just an opportunity for the student to complete the coursework that they weren't able to complete during the regular term, in this case, on the assumption that they may have fallen ill. So that's just a kind of a quick shot of where we are. As I said, I'm incredibly proud of our faculty and our support staff. Our facilities folks are incredibly supportive. The collaborations that we've developed in preparing for this fall will last for a long time, and I'm just delighted that we have done that. So it is now my pleasure. Gosh, Leslie, MC, who am I handing it off to? Maybe I can ask you to help pass the baton here.
You can. I've got it because it's my turn, Tony. Thank you so much. Really appreciate your time. I'd like to talk a little bit about student and campus life today. So there's so much I want to share with you, but I'm limited to a few minutes. So I'm going to try my best to give you a short version on what it's going to be like in the fall. It's going to be different, but we're Broncos. We are creative, we are innovative, and we will provide our students as much value and as many opportunities as we can fit into this incredibly unusual semester. Staples of student life on campus will be open: the library, the rec center, the student union, residence life, our living learning program, which features our faculty and residents, dining services, and the list goes on. Our Student Involvement and Leadership Center, housing, Bronco Fit, campus recreation, service learning, the list goes on. So many are developing events and activities, both virtual and live, to help students build connections, meet people, and have fun. And students can still look forward to all the events we'll offer during Bronco Welcome and Homecoming. Now, events will be remote, they will be hybrid, and they will be in person. Small, low density gatherings. There will be opportunities for students to engage in our beautiful outdoors, hiking, rock climbing, whitewater kayaking. The list is endless. Of course, there will be protocols in place for safety. And that's just one of the most important things that's going to be connected to everything that we do for our students and each other this fall. Student organizations will be active, they will be supportive. We might have to adjust a little bit about how meetings happen to ensure social distancing and keeping the health and safety at the forefront. Fraternities and sororities, I know some of you are asking about that, will continue to serve the community, engaging in philanthropic activities, doing virtual, hybrid, and in-person activities as well this fall. And of course, all of our students have the opportunity to serve the community. Alternative breaks and service programs. They'll be recentered on smaller, low density, hyper-local experiences in the Boise and Treasure Valley. And there's such a high need, so we feel pretty confident about what we're going to offer. There will be job opportunities for students across campus. And let's not forget why we're here. We're here to gather the knowledge, the skills, the disposition, and turn all of that into a compelling story for an employer, for a graduate school committee, for the Peace Corps. And maybe you, students, will have a few extra minutes in your schedule. You can invest in your future through experiential learning opportunities, through things like service learning and volunteering, joining a club, or participating in an internship or a special program called Work You, where you essentially engage in a local business and you come to a class to unpack your experiences. The opportunities are endless, and we're just asking for your flexibility, your patience, and your creativity to make the most of your experience. You also have an opportunity to engage in a robust program to connect with Boise State alumni to learn more about their career paths and get career and life advice through our Bronco Link program, which is an electronic connection platform. The bottom line is this: campus may feel a little quieter. than it has in the past. We'll be a little bit more spread out. And while our indoor spaces will be maximized for class use, our outdoor spaces will get to host small groups of students like we've really never seen before. And that energy that comes from large scale events and activities will be replaced, but we will still be making meaningful connections with and amongst you. Across campus, students will find so many opportunities to meet people, to try new things, to expand their horizons, and ultimately to grow as individuals. I'm sorry for the pinging on my computer. Now I want to address a few of your specific questions. Again, I'm going to do my best to share a summary. I hope that I gave you a snapshot of what social campus life will look like this fall. Now I'd like to tell you a little bit about dining, because you must have had no less than 50 questions about that. So what I'd like to share with you around dining is that we will continue to have the all you care to eat facility with stations like salad bar, grill, home style, around the world concepts, and the list goes on. Gloved, masked staff, of course, will plate our food. Utensils are prepackaged. All of the safety things that you can imagine will be in place. Lines will be queued with social distancing. And there will be lots of to-go options at all of our locations. Our most popular retail locations will be open, like Subway, Chick-fil-A, and Einstein's Bagels, and there are others. You'll be able to use Bronco Bucks and Flex Dollars at all locations. If you haven't already, check out Campus Dish for more options for hours, and the list goes on. The second area that you've asked about is around your involvement, families, parents and families. And what we want to let you know that yes, while there will be stringent guest policies in the residence hall, you can visit your child. However, after moving in, there are no guests allowed. So visitors will need to plan on spending time with their student outside of the residence halls. Now, Dr. Jones is going to join us in a few minutes and talk a little bit more specifically about housing and residence life. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move to talk just a little bit about another category that you've asked about, the tenor of our faculty staff. You've been wondering how we're doing. And first, let me just tell you, I'm so thankful that you asked. We have been working so hard to prepare a robust campus experience for everyone who chooses to be part of the Bronco family. And what we're most nervous about is whether we can do this together, because it requires an element of self-discipline and compliance. And we're committed to doing that. And we're going to ask our students to commit to doing that as well. And you'll hear a little bit more from one of my colleagues in a moment to talk about that. The other question that you asked about is tuition. No surprise, several of you are wondering what our protocols are. And so I want to share just a little bit about this area with you. We froze tuition and fees this year for all students, in-state students and out-of-state students. We invested hundreds of thousands of dollars this summer in additional developmental work for faculty who are participating collectively, investing in more than 16,000 person hours. Some of this you may have read or heard before, but I want to reiterate it because I just think it's so important. We suspended the standard $30 credit tech fee for online courses this fall, and that's about $150 per student for the semester. And it's $1 million in cost recovery that the university is bearing because we are this committed to continuing to increase access and affordability. The other thing I'd like to share is that we invested over $1.5 million in classroom technology to enhance hybrid course delivery. We had to pivot in the spring, and we must be prepared to do so in the fall. Now, the last thing I want to share with you is probably your number one question, and that is that we have several public-private partnerships, both housing and dining. And so the decision regarding fall reimbursements will be made in coordination with our partners. And we have scheduled meetings in the coming week to discuss our protocols should we have a forced closure. The housing contract is built on the academic year. Should a student choose to vacate for any period of time, whether for a vacation or a break, we're not able to reassign those rooms and therefore do not prorate rent for the period of time a student isn't physically present in their space. So that's a very transparent way of sharing with you sort of how our overarching tuition fee model is structured. We are committed to both looking at the short term about what fall looks like and the long-term viability of the institution. So now what I'd like to do is I'd like to pivot, knowing I imagine you might have some more questions. And again, please do put those in the Q&A. And I'd like to invite my colleague, Maureen Welcker, our public health officer, to give you some insights about what it looks like to reintegrate and reopen in the fall.
Sorry, I'm having trouble with my video. Oops, there we go. Sorry about that, everybody. Good evening. I'm so thrilled to be here. Again, my name is Maureen Welcker, and I'm Boise State's new public health officer. Public health. My area of expertise is about community. All of our efforts around planning for the fall, this spring and this summer, have been moving toward a focus on the affirmation that we are Boise State. Not me, not you, not they, but we. We are Boise State, and it's going to take all of us to be successful. You've heard this from my colleagues ahead of me, and you'll hear this as we continue with this Zoom this evening. So as a community, we have adopted a public health layered approach to not only our planning efforts, but also to our expectations. So I'm going to start with testing, an area that a number of you have had some questions about. At the beginning, our plans incorporated a requirement that all faculty, staff, students, everyone returning to campus be tested. Now, we had to pivot a little bit on that because after we made those plans, we were forced to deal with a situation where timely testing for asymptomatic individuals was no longer readily available. And my colleagues have worked for months searching for other options for Boise State. And I am so excited to be able to announce tonight that because of those efforts, we have been able to enter into a public and private partnership with two of our local hospitals, St. Alphonsus and St. Luke's, to create a dedicated testing facility that is going to add between 1,000 and 4,000 tests a day available to our Boise State community and to our Boise community. We are so excited about this opportunity. We have added our people, our expertise, and a lot of our equipment to be able to make this possible. Other equipment has been ordered. We have a plan in place for training of the folks that will be doing the testing, and we expect to be able to add this huge increase in testing capacity within a month. We are so excited about this, and we are excited about what it means to the added safety of our campus community. The second effort, layered approach that we've focused on is the wearing of facial coverings. We're seeing this nationwide. It is imperative that we do everything that we can to prevent the spread of this terrible COVID disease. As a result, we've ordered 2 BSU facial coverings for every incoming student, and there will be those same facial coverings for faculty and staff. We will be strict with ourselves, with our colleagues, and with our students. And luckily, I'm excited to know to be able to say that it turns out that many of folks feel that our masks are very cool. So we're hearing reports of people wanting to buy BSU face masks off of staff on the street. So that's exciting as well. Our next layered approach is the practice of physical distancing. You've heard some of my colleagues be talking about this. You heard Dr. Rourke talking about the fact that there will be the opportunity to take classes in Extra Mile Arena. every single department, program, building, group on campus, and going to be on campus has had to submit a plan to our reintegration committee to be reviewed and approved to make sure that we have accurate and safe physical distancing in place. Those plans are looked at de-densification, they looked at physical distancing, they looked at holding larger classes in bigger classrooms. As part of physical distancing and our buildings, we've also made some huge improvements with our ventilation systems. We've altered our air handling systems so that we're able to bring more outside air into our buildings, while at the same time balancing issues around temperature. The next approach that we've taken on is making sure that we're washing hands. You're going to see signs all over campus and sanitizer everywhere for us to be able to continue with that public health practice. Next, we have the concept of clean. Our custodial staff have been working tirelessly to make sure that our campus is as clean as possible, not only when faculty and staff and students first arrive, but will continue to be so throughout the time that we are all on campus, throughout our fall semester. They are still practicing the enhanced cleaning protocols that were implemented back in March. And they've verified that all of our products, our cleaning products, have been approved on the list provided by EPA. And their custodial workers will be continuing to wipe down high touch surfaces. But they're also going to be asking for all of our students and all of our other faculty and staff to be wiping down the surfaces in the areas that they use. And there is going to be sanitizer and cleaning supplies in all over campus to be able to allow this to happen. The last approach that we are taking in the area of public health is the concept of making sure that we prevent outbreaks as soon as they might arise. And to do so, what we are going to have in place is a way for students to check their symptoms daily. They will have the opportunity to access a daily symptom checker off of our main website, or they will have the opportunity to access a symptom checking app. We are going to be asking folks to make sure that if they are feeling at all sick, that they need to stay home from campus or home in their housing situation. And we have created a very aggressive contact tracing program on campus to be able to help identify folks that may not be feeling well as to identify folks that might have been exposed to them. This aggressive contact tracing program not only is going to enhance the contact tracing programs that exist at our local level in Boise, but is also going to be in coordination with that group. I look forward to being able to answer some more of your questions as our Zoom town hall continues. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, Maureen. I'd like to invite our Chief of Staff and Vice President for Compliance, Legal, and Audit to share any other overarching thoughts with our participants today. Alicia Esty.
Thank you, Dr. Webb. I'm so excited to join all of you tonight. As Dr. Webb mentioned, I'm the President's Chief of Staff and the Vice President for Compliance, Legal, and Audit. I'm also the Chair of the University's Reintegration Committee, which is charged with planning for a healthy and safe fall semester. As Maureen described, the university has a robust, multi-layered plan to prevent and respond to COVID infections. I'm so excited that you've joined us tonight, and I look forward to answering questions about our reintegration plan or about being a Bronco in general. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Finally, I'd like to invite my colleague, Dr. Luke Jones, who is the Director of Housing and Residence Life. Dr. Jones.
Yes, hi, good evening. And I think I will try to start my video, but I believe I need our host to actually start my video for us. But I'll just go ahead and start talking. I have the pleasure of serving as our Director of Housing and Residence Life here at Boise State. There we go. And we've been working very hard on preparing for move-in day, or really more accurately, move-in days. And so I'll give a few updates as to what we've been up to, as well as answer a couple of commonly asked questions that we get, which haven't really been addressed so far. So as I said, we're preparing for move-in days, which officially starts August 18th and will run August 18th, 19th, and 20th. So one of the main things that we need students to be doing right now is to check your email and see the emails we've been sending to you at your Boise State email address and sign up for move-in day. You have some choices and you have some options. And when you arrive to campus, each day we'll have some onboarding events designed to get you acclimated to the residential community, as well as to the Boise State campus at large. And Friday will really be a set of activities to help you get up and running and prepared and confident so that you can really start your classes and your academic journey as strongly as possible. We're actually going to be calling every student who's coming into housing in the fall, both new students and returning students, over the next week to make sure that they understand everything that's happening and also see what questions that they have. But a few things that we really want to call attention to. One is, if students you haven't already gone into our housing portal, you need to do that and sign our housing addendum to confirm that you've read that and understand what the expectations and requirements will be of you in the fall, as well as accept and acknowledge your room assignment. You can get started, and we need you to get started on ordering your Bronco card. So you can have this done basically when you arrive so that we can get you your card that has your picture on it. It's your ID. It's what gets you into our buildings. It's what gets you into your room. And so there's an electronic way to actually do that prior to arrival. We'll also need you to work on your packing list. So obviously bring a face mask. We're going to be providing you with some upon arrival, but we'd like for you to also bring some of your own because face masks are going to be required in all spaces in the residence hall outside of your room. So when you're in your room with your roommates or your suite mates, you don't need to wear it. That's like your tightest social circle. And so that's a space where you're really going to be doing life and school together. And so it's kind of similar to living at home. This is your home. But when you walk out of that space, you're in the public. And so anywhere that you're in public, you'll need to wear that face covering. We'd also love for you to talk to your roommate if you haven't already. Talk to your roommate and find out more about what they're excited about, maybe what they're a little bit nervous about, as well as what they're planning to bring so that you can coordinate that. We'd also like to ask you to limit the number of people that you bring with you to help you move in. And this is because we're really trying to reduce the amount of people traveling within our residence halls, reduce the risk both to our campus community, but as well to you and your family and friends who might be joining you. So we don't have a hard limit on that, but we would just ask 1 or 2 other people to help you move your stuff in. And I think it's important to know that there actually won't be parent and family programming that's happening. So really it's about getting your student in. If you want to hang out with parents or family members afterwards, no problem. You just would need to go outside of the residence halls to do that. We'd love to call your attention to the FAQ page that's on our Housing and Residence Life website. And I think we'll include the link here in our chat for you. We're constantly updating that with more information. And so one of the latest things, and Leslie touched on it, was our guest policy. And so you can read more about that as well as other important information. It's on our website and it's updated on a weekly, sometimes daily basis. I'll touch on a few of the questions that we've seen most common so far. We heard a little bit about that testing, but just to reiterate, testing is not required prior to move-in. And so that was something that early on we thought we would be able to accommodate, and Maureen did a good job of describing what shifted there. But testing is not required prior to move-in, and students will not be required to self-isolate upon arrival either. I'll touch on our isolation and protocol process. So for those who need to self-isolate or quarantine, just touch on that for a minute. Maureen is leading up, as you heard, a solid group of professionals who will really be handling that contact tracing and notification of any students who might be impacted because they are experiencing symptoms, or they've tested positive, or they're awaiting a test, or a roommate or a suite mate or someone else living in our building who may have come into contact with a possible positive case. So they're really at the helm in driving that action. But we in Housing and Residence Life, and we've got a team of over 50 professionals staffed to support our students in our on-campus living environments, are ready to assist when and if that public health officer and their team say, you need to self-isolate. So we have rooms that have been set aside that are prepared for just that purpose. So students will be able to move into a new space for whatever designated period of time. Most commonly, it's 10 to 14 days. And that room will come equipped, kind of similar to a hotel room might. So towels, sheets, linens, the basic kitchen and supplies to do what you need to do to take care of yourself. Toilet paper, a plunger, you know, life's necessities will be there for your student when they get into that room. It will be cleaned prior to their arrival, and when they depart, it will be cleaned by actually an external group that's specifically trained on cleaning for spaces that have had possible or confirmed COVID cases. They will also be helping this public health team with the reintegration. So when it's time for a student to come out of self-isolation, they'll let them know, and we will assist with the reintegration back into their community. And I think it's important to note that there's a network of support that has been built up and trained and are ready to support those students who are in self-isolation and quarantine. So this includes a nursing staff, counseling, health and wellness, academic advising, campus recreation, and peer support as well. Checking in on students, seeing how they're doing, making sure that they're really able to continue to succeed and thrive as a student, even if they do find themselves in this situation where they need to self-isolate. The last thing I'll touch on, and then we'll open it up for questions and dialogue, is Thanksgiving. So we get a lot of questions about what's happening once the university moves to an online delivery format. So in Thanksgiving break, students have options. So if students choose to go home, we would want them to stay home because that helps us from a health and public safety standpoint, but they don't have to. So students have the option to return back to campus. But if they do, they'll need to self-isolate for 14 days, and they'll need to coordinate that with their roommate because we won't necessarily have designated spaces for everyone who may choose to do that. So they would self-isolate, coming back for 2 weeks as they get through and make it to the end of finals. The other option is they can go home and stay home. And that's also an option, continue to do their coursework online and kind of save some of that hassle that they might experience if they come back and have to self-isolate. They can also choose to stay on campus during that time. So if students would like to continue to access dining, we'll still be open. We'll still have our staff. There's still going to be student life experiences on campus, and they can stay and they can finish out the semester here on campus, but engaging in online curricular format. So those are all the options available to students. They don't have to move all their stuff out. Everything stays. Our academic contract, or sorry, our residential life contract is for the entire academic year. And so all your stuff stays. You don't need to move it out. And we are not issuing any prorated refunds if a student chooses to stay home and not come back. So that's our approach for Thanksgiving. And answer some of the common questions that we get, I will now turn it back over to our moderator.
Thank you, Dr. Jones. So appreciate your time and energy and all that your team has done to get ready for welcoming students back to campus. We recognize that not all campuses are doing that, and we feel like our strategies are really sound. And so I'm really excited to see those of you who we're going to see here just a couple weeks. What I'd like to do is now pivot, and this is where I have to channel all of my creative energy to sort of navigate some of the questions that you all are popping. And Tony, what I'm going to do is I'd like to start and ask you a couple of clarifying questions about academics. So the first thing I'd love for you to help our team understand here is the difference between an online class and a remote class.
That's a great question, Leslie. Thank you. And thank you to whoever answered that. I probably should have spoken that in my introductory remarks. So the difference between an online course and a remote course, as we use those terms, really has to do with timing. So a remote course is one where students log in, much as you have this evening, to participate in the class at a specific time. Usually that's 2 or 3 times a week, obviously. And so they are meeting in that same kind of rhythm on a prescribed schedule as they would if they were coming to campus and meeting in a physical classroom. An online class, on the other hand, is asynchronous. The materials in the class, the assignments are available to students, and they are able to log in at their chosen time. There are, of course, deadlines and things like that, but there's a bit more flexibility there. And that really is one of the advantages of an online course as opposed to a remote course, is flexibility for student schedule. Now, I know that many incoming students in the first year benefit from having a bit more structure to their schedule. So a remote class might be better for them to establish that rhythm and establish those habits and those patterns. They both have benefits, and it really depends on specific needs. There are opportunities, as I said originally, for students to collaborate with one another, to interact with the instructor in very meaningful ways, and so they're not fundamentally different in terms of the learning experience for students.
Thank you so much, Tony. I'm gonna keep you right here with me, and I'd like to ask you another question. Can you share a little bit for our students and families about where we are right now with regard to schedules? Will there be any changes for this fall?
Great question. The answer is there will be some changes. There are always some changes at this point in the year. And right now, I understand that there are additional complexities in a student's life, in their family's life, but also in the lives of our instructors. And so there are some significant changes to living life experiences and conditions for our faculty members. And we also have the added challenge of fitting all of our in-person classes into our schedulable classrooms. And so there still are a few moving parts. It is a very, very small minority of all of our classes. And so I suspect that comparatively few students will see any changes. We obviously are locking those in day by day. And the important point, I think, to emphasize is that once the semester commences, that once we start, then we will change our mode of delivery only in the case that the university decides that we need to pause in-person instruction and move all of our instruction to remote. So that would be a university decision, or in the case where a student falls ill or needs to quarantine, as I mentioned earlier. So there is some security there and some predictability and stability.
Tony, I don't know if you're going to be able to answer this question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Do you think that you can predict what the chances are that we would have to move fully online?
Gosh, I think I would defer to Maureen, our public health expert, on that. You know, the numbers this week look pretty good. You know, everybody has their favorite website to look at. NPR was the one that I looked at first this morning, and Idaho was green, indicating that we had a downtick in our case rate. But Maureen, would you comment on that?
I think the main thing is that we are putting every effort we possibly can into mitigation strategies to prevent that from happening. Now, it is true that if the state were to implement a stay-at-home order, or if there were to be a large outbreak on campus and there are our ICU units and the hospitals were overwhelmed, then that might force our hand. But the important thing to note is that as we have worked tirelessly through all of these months of planning and preparation for fall, we are working to make sure that as much as we can control it, that will not happen.
Maureen, I'd like to invite you to stay with me here while I ask you a couple of questions about our mitigation strategies. And Alicia, of course, I invite you to weigh in as well. But what I'd like to start with is asking you to share again, is testing required, or is it only available for students who exhibit symptoms? When do they need to get the test?
So as Luke Jones had brought up earlier, there is not a requirement for testing upon arrival to campus. We will have testing available, and it will be prioritized for students in housing, as I mentioned, with this new public and private partnership with our two hospitals, area hospitals, St. Luke's and St. Al's. And that we expect again to be available within a month. That should, I think, should answer the testing question. Alicia, do you have anything else you'd like to add on that?
Thank you. I would only add that in the time that it takes, in the time prior to that testing partnership being fully up and running, we do still have capacity to test people who are symptomatic.
And I guess I had one other thing to add. The other exciting piece about the testing capacity that we are building is one of the concerns nationwide right now is how long it takes to get test results after you get your test. In the situation that we are moving forward with, we are hoping to have test results within 24 hours.
Thank you. That was my next question for you. So wonderful that you got there before I did. So a 24-hour turnaround time would be pretty incredible. Alicia and Maureen, do you think that you can help our audience understand if we have thresholds with regard to a breakout on campus?
I think as far as thresholds, I'm going to pass that on to Alicia.
Thank you. We don't have specific numbers because there are so many variables that go into that decision. It really depends on our local healthcare system's capacity to care for sick individuals. It depends on the number of sick people that we have on campus relative to the number of isolation spaces we have, and then what our local prevalence rates are, and a number of other factors. So that's something that our healthcare team will monitor on an ongoing basis, and we will make decisions based on our medical professional and public health officers' recommendations.
On the same topic, can you help us and the team understand what does aggressive contact tracing mean?
What it means is that we will have a team of healthcare professionals, of public health professionals that will be available to students, to faculty, and to staff if they have any concerns about their health in this environment. So if folks are concerned about a symptom that might be COVID related, or if they're concerned about an exposure to someone who they may feel or have heard was sick, they can reach out to us and we'll be able to assess their need to self-isolate or self-quarantine. We'll provide them with resources, not only around their health, but also around opportunities around campus. And this is again coordinated with the efforts that are happening at the local level outside of our campus community. We are also will be our aggressive contact tracing team is also in contact on a regular basis with our local public health department. So as positive tests do come in from the community, we will be receiving those results and be able to act quickly to prevent an outbreak.
Thanks so much. Quite a few of you have been wondering about what does it look like to be a family and parents of my student? How am I going to connect? How am I going to stay engaged? And I want to let you know that we've been so focused on our students. Soon we're ready to pivot to creating opportunities for you to zoom in and meet with their team. We'd love to be working with our parent and family council, and will soon, to try to figure out how we can best engage you in a virtual environment. We have postponed parent and family weekend to the spring, and more information will be available on that as we're able to sort of work through what we have right in front of us. But folks, I want you to know that you can simply reach out and say, you know what, can we just create a small parent and family town hall and connect and zoom in together, and we'll create that community. So I want to let you know that even if you don't see us offering that and it's something that you want, please reach out and ask. Let's see, I know we only have a couple more minutes, and so I would like to just invite Luke to share a couple more things. Luke, we have a student whose parents are helping them move in, and they want to know, if they go shopping on a day that isn't their move-in day, can their parents still help them?
Yes. How's that for an answer?
Of course, yes. But I wanted to honor the question because, you know, we are putting restrictions in place. And so I do think it's worth reminding folks that, yes, you can connect with your students. We just might invite you to do that in another site, not in the residence halls.
Yeah, I think the important thing to note there is, again, the spirit of what we're trying to do is to reduce the amount of people and traffic flow and guests in our spaces. Having said that, the 18th, 19th, 20th, these are days where we're going to be moving people in. So if it's absolutely critical and necessary that you've got to come back and help your student move in, I don't know, a mini fridge that you bought, then yes, let's do that. Just, we want you to take all those precautions, wearing a face covering, making sure it's really necessary, and not spending any more time than you really need to in that space.
I've got one more for housing, and I'm just going to answer it all in one fell swoop. And that is this: how will our students understand what is expected of them? So I just want to reiterate that not only do we have the information on the housing website, we're also launching a calling campaign, and we'll be calling all of our residential students over the next week and before move-in to remind them of what the expectations are. In addition, yes, there will be, our residence hall staff will be working with students, reminding students of what the expectations are. And I believe Luke mentioned that there is a housing addendum that goes over some of those health and safety expectations for our entire residential community. Luke, did I miss anything?
I think the only other thing that I would add in there is that each floor or each group in our housing communities has a designated residential assistant, sometimes a residential assistant and a community assistant. These are peers, student leaders, and a resident director who's a full-time professional staff member who's living in the halls. And that's really their job. Through a series of floor meetings, virtual meetings, they'll be talking with each student as well as collective students in their suites or beyond to make sure that they understand the expectations, and we'll be role modeling the expectations as well. So we're hoping as soon as students get settled in, it'll become obvious through those conversations and that role modeling of what's expected of them.
Thanks, Luke. While you were talking, another question came in, so I would love to just keep you right here and ask you about Wi-Fi capability in the residence halls. Have we done anything to increase our, what's the term, bandwidth, packers, shapers, something like that? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, package shaping. Wow, I'm so impressed that you know about that. Or we could talk about APs or access points. Yeah, absolutely. In fact, this last year, we did a major upgrade and overhaul prior to even COVID to add more access points, to improve some of the wireless signals where we were having sometimes a little bit of issues, but even more importantly now with being more content delivered online. Absolutely, yeah, increased access, bandwidth, all of the above.
Thank you so much. You know what, Maureen, could you please share with us the difference between, can you just define facial covering for us? What can our students use? What can our parents and families use who are coming to campus to help their students move in?
The key to an effective facial covering is the ability to cover both one's nose and one's mouth, and to have it covered so that there's no ability for any particles to be falling down or upward or out the sides. So that is what we're looking for. There's been a lot of conversations and questions around facial shields over face masks. And the issue with face shields is that they don't afford the same level of protection that a mask does. Because with a facial shield, as you know, it still has an opening below and some openings on the side. Other questions that have come up are the question around bandanas. Now, a bandana, if you just tie it around your head, still allows an opening below. But if you have the ability to, and with your bandana, to pull it up so that you are able to cover both your nose and your mouth, you're seeing a lot of my face here, then it would be acceptable.
Thank you so much. I want to ask my colleagues here to talk a little bit about this. If I go home for Thanksgiving, if I choose to go home for Thanksgiving, and I want to come back, knowing my courses are online, would I need to self-isolate for 2 weeks upon my return?
Hi. So yes, if students want to go home over Thanksgiving break and come back, they'll need to self-isolate for 2 weeks.
Thank you. I also want to ask if any of my colleagues can answer about the Bronco card. How do I get this and when?
That's a great question. The easiest way is I'll give a little link in the chat box, but if you want to go to our website, just Google Bronco card, and right on that web page is the instructions about how you would submit a photo and get that produced so that it's ready upon your arrival.
You know what, Luke? I believe that that link might already be in the chat. So fantastic. Someone was way in advance. This is what I want to do now. I want to let you all know how grateful we are that you chose to join us tonight. And I also want to thank the panelists for their time and their energy and everything that they're doing to get ready to welcome our students back to the fall. And before we close tonight, thank you for the grace that you're sharing with us. Thank you for your patience as we navigate the complexities of what we're facing and what we're going to face together as a Bronco community. I'd like to invite our president or my colleagues to share any final thoughts.
I'd like to say we're so excited to welcome you, and go Broncos.
It's such a thrill to have everyone here tonight and to see such a robust group of folks joining us for this event. We really care about our students and our community, and we're going to do everything we can to make sure this is an extraordinary experience, even with all the challenges we're facing. In fact, one of the things that we know is that the challenges people face in these moments will teach them to be even more resilient and creative down the road. So thank you for being here, and go Broncos.
Remember, our doors are both physically and virtually open to you. Please don't be a stranger, and we look forward to seeing you in the fall. Please reach out, and don't forget townhall@boisestate.edu for any additional questions. Thank you so much, and go Broncos.